Ladies, gentlemen, and legends of all ages, Pokemon are really cool. I think we can all agree on that, but what's cooler than a Pokemon? A shiny Pokemon, a unique, colorful variant of your favorite furry, feathered, scaled friend, whoever it may be, and so today we're going to essentially go over the best shiny hunting methods for everything in the entirety of Pokémon Legends Z-A, by which I mean specifically, we will go over the general tips and practices for shiny hunting in this game in general, just to sort of recap it so all the info is in one place all together, and then we'll go over any information we've already covered on this channel a little bit quicker than the rest, but then after that, we will talk about the most efficient farm method specific to each of the 20 different wild zones. Some of them are relatively simple, some of them are a little bit more involved. Then we will also talk about some more specific other locations you can shiny hunt in too, like underground areas or a laboratory or indoor spawns like the sewers or things like that. Starting off then with a general refresher on shiny hunting in Legends Z-A. Every time a Pokemon spawns in your world, they have a 1 in 4096 chance of being a shiny. If you have the Shiny Charm key item, you essentially get 3 bonus rolls at that every time a Pokemon spawns, so it is effectively right around 1 in 1024 spawns to have a shiny exist in your world, on average. The Shiny Charm itself is a reward for research rank 50 through Mabel's research rewards, and to reach this you basically just have to complete every single research request that she has for you, and we do have a video up on the channel talking about the most efficient ways to do that if you are interested in getting the Shiny Charm quicker, but I won't go into that deep detail right here. Once a shiny Pokemon spawns into your game world, they essentially are locked into it. There is a sort of shiny protection feature in Legends Z-A. The game will make note of every shiny Pokemon that spawns when Pokemon spawn in your world, and even if you walk out of range, even if you despawn the shiny Pokemon, even if you quit the game, you do loading screens, pretty much every activity that you could imagine except for fighting and killing the Pokemon, that shiny Pokemon will stick around. It will still be there when you go back to that same location. Just to show it in motion as well, here's a comment I got when showing a mega shard farming route in background footage of a video recently. The actual footage of the route is literally multiple days old as of this moment, but thanks to Howdy9248 for pointing out the shiny Pidgey that's on the lamppost in the bottom left corner for like 5 frames, because this Pidgey is still there in my game world right now. I'm wearing a totally different outfit, so you can see it's clearly not just like editing magic or something like that. This thing has been sitting on a lamppost for ages waiting for me to collect it. The exception to this mechanic then is if you find more shinies, because this does have a limit of 10. Once you have 10 shinies tagged and locked anywhere in your game world, your shiny protection is essentially full up. The next time you find a shiny Pokemon, if you walk out of range of it, it would then be locked and saved for when you return, but it overwrites the oldest shiny in your current saved list. So basically your game keeps track of 10 shinies at a time in your world unless they're literally in front of you, and this will stay unless you engage them, or until you find an 11th shiny. The 11th shiny that you find replaces the first shiny that you found, and this continues onwards and forwards for the entire rest of the time you play the game. When you have a shiny in your world then, and you are prepared to get ready to catch it, there are 2 things to be aware of. First, shiny Pokemon have increased catch rates compared to the regular version of that species. Just intrinsically, shiny Pokemon are easier to catch on purpose. That said, as an extra layer of safety, you can save before you actually engage the shiny in combat, and then if anything goes wrong, you can just reload the save, and while you are fighting the shiny, if you get it to that stunned state at 0 HP, as long as the stunned Pokemon is the only one that you are in combat with, you can open the menu and save the game there too. And that way, if the ball throw fails you, you can just reload the save and immediately be right back in front of a stunned shiny waiting for you to throw a ball at it. I especially recommend this for shiny alpha Pokemon, as alphas have a lowered catch rate compared to standard, and there's no real easy way to hunt shiny alphas specifically past just, shiny hunting in an area where alphas you want can spawn. So you really want to make sure you secure those catches if you find them. Final tip then before we get into the meat of the video, which is the more specific methods for each location, is that you can actually duplicate shiny Pokemon in this game. There is a dupe glitch for Pokemon. It pretty much only applies to this specifically. It only really makes sense to do it for shinies, and it's specifically because of the sort of like shiny protection feature where it stores shinies that you found and saves them for later. Before we get into the actual method then, there have been ways of duplicating Pokemon in past games, and these have caused issues when trying to bring Pokemon into the Pokemon Home feature. We don't know yet how that will interact with this dupe glitch in this game, but the main use of being able to dupe a shiny Pokemon should be to share it with other people, and doing that should be safe to do in comparison to just doing it and hoarding grabbing a bunch for yourself personally. That said, the actual method for this is a lot simpler than it might sound at first. Basically, we're going to be messing with leash range and save manipulation. Leashing is a term that refers to the maximum range something will chase you before it drops all aggro and starts to go back to its original position. Leash range in this game is around 40 steps, 40 units, whatever term you want to use. I use them pretty interchangeably myself, and this can be visualized by putting a pin on top of the spot the Pokemon was standing before it started chasing you. That said, for this method to work, you need to be able to run around 85 units in a straight line away from the starting position, so it does have a little bit of limitation. To do it then, engage the Pokemon in combat, then start running away from its spawn position while it follows you. The pin isn't a requirement, but it helps you visualize the distance. After around 50 units of distance, the Pokemon will reach maximum range. It will drop combat with you, it will leash, and start to run around towards where it started. Immediately, when it turns around and drops aggro, open up your menu and save. Go back to the home screen, close the game, launch back into the game, and load that save, and when you load in, the Pokemon will instead be directly in front of you, but not moving, like it had just spawned there naturally. You do need to repeat this a second time though. Make sure to continue to drag the Pokemon the same direction away from the initial location, and once you are 80 units away from that original starting position, the glitch will start to work. Anything further than 80 units is just a little bit of extra safety so you can be sure, but once the Pokemon leashes again, open your menu, save your game, go to the home screen, close the game, open the game, and load the save, and now the glitch is complete. You have one shiny Pokemon right in front of you, the one that you dragged all the way over here, but there is also an identical copy of that Pokemon where it originally spawned to begin with. The one you just created by dragging it away and saving and such will disappear if you walk out of range of it, but the original shiny, the one that you copied to get this one, won't despawn unless you override it by finding new ones after the fact. So you can basically just clone shinies as much as you want to send them to your friends. That said, now let's get into specific shiny hunting methods for different areas and thus different Pokemon, as this should apply to pretty much every Pokemon that isn't a static shiny locked spawn. As long as you know where the base Pokemon can spawn, you can use this to work out the best method to hunt for the shiny. We will start with the general methods, then we'll talk about how to apply them to each location and variations. Method 1 is fast travel. When you fast travel to a fast travel location, it resets all Pokemon spawns that are within around 50 steps of you, even if you fast travel from the same place that you arrive at. This is one of the slower methods of respawning Pokemon, but it is very low effort, and because shiny Pokemon stay actively in your world, you can just sort of do this like 100 times in a row and then check to see how many shinies you have gotten in that time without much fear that you've fully missed one by doing that. The second method is just running away and then running back, pure movement. Pokemon spawn in within around 50 steps of distance from you at any given point, and they despawn somewhere between 70 and 80 steps or units of distance away from you. So using this Bunnelby as an example here, I can just run 70 to 80 steps from its position, despawn it, walk back to 50 units, and it will come back in as a fresh spawn. Repeat that over and over. Every time I do it, it is a different Bunnelby. You'll see sometimes it's an alpha, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's male, sometimes it's female, and this is the main strategy for hunting Pokemon that only spawn like one at a time rather than trying to shiny hunt something that spawns all over the place in an area. If you are playing on a Nintendo Switch 1 instead of a Switch 2, the running back and forth despawn method is almost always the best method in every situation because it requires no loading screens, and loading screens are much longer on the Switch 1 than the Switch 2. This is the only time I'm really going to be mentioning that for the rest of this video. For the most part, the advice is going to be applying to the Switch 2 because if you just have the Switch 1, it's only the one method that really matters to use. The third method then today is bench resetting. When you sleep on a bench, you cause a shift from day to night or night to day. When the world shifts between night and day, all Pokemon respawn like a loading screen, so 50 steps around you. And by resting on a bench, you repeatedly have basically the same effect as spam fast traveling, except that you don't need a fast travel location on your map to be able to do it, just anywhere that has a bench. Sometimes benches are in better places than fast travel spots, sometimes benches are in places that a fast travel spot could not reach to begin with. A way you can take this even further is you can make it into an AFK shiny hunt method if you have some kind of turbo controller and like a couple of pieces of tape. Use the tape to make your left stick just hold in the down position so you are permanently moving away from the camera, and then use the other piece of tape on your turbo controller button A so it just mashes A permanently. Without actually having to press any buttons yourself, you can just rest on a bench repeatedly without any hands actually doing anything, just passively making shiny Pokemon slowly exist. And the reason this matters is because you can just like find a bench with some Pokemon nearby that that you would like a shiny version of, set this up before you go to sleep at night or before you go out, and wake up and have some shinies to collect in the morning. Without a turbo controller, you can only set up AFK shiny farming in a couple of other locations, like it's very, very rare, but if you do have a turbo controller, these benches are all over the place and they are very usable in this way. Similarly, our interactable doors. Any door that you have to enter with a loading screen works exactly the same as the benches do, and the fast travel method does, except that it's generally much faster to use the doors than both of these because the game loads less when you walk through a door. A really early generic example with Wild Zone 1 is the Pokémon Research Lab door. Enter the door back and forth and it will respawn any Pokémon within 50 units of where you come out of the door. And the only Pokémon in 50 units of this specific door is like the Pichu in the Wild Zone's corner, but of course if there were more Pokémon in range of the door, you can see how the door would work really well. And similarly to the bench, you can set this up as an AFK strat with a piece of tape and a turbo controller, as it can be spammed by just holding down on the left stick to turn around and mashing the A button to go through the door. And pretty much every other method than this is hyper-specific to niche locations, so we'll talk about all of those as we go through. That said, moving into the best way to shiny hunt in each Wild Zone, for Wild Zone 1 Pokemon, the general best shiny hunting method in here is this bench right in the middle of the zone. Spam rest at this bench for a while and then walk around and check for shinies. If you want specifically a shiny Pichu, as that one spawns more than 50 units away from the bench, you're best off using the Pokemon Research Lab door like we mentioned before, and just walking in and out of the door repeatedly for a while, as each time you walk out, you get a fresh spawn. For Wild Zone 2, fast travel method is best for anything near the south entrance. Pure run distance, the running back and forth out of their actual spawn range, is best for anything that's on the north side of the Wild Zone, using the northwest gate to help you get out of their spawn range. For the specific alpha spawn position on the southeast side of this Wild Zone, if you want to specifically make that alpha a shiny, there is a bench right outside of the zone within range of this that you can use to AFK shiny hunt the alpha if you have a turbo controller. For Wild Zone 3, this is one of the special ones. Everything on the west side of this Wild Zone can be shiny hunted very efficiently because there is a staircase that you can just walk up and down with a very, very quick loading screen attached to it. The only input required is to hold down on the left stick, so this is an AFK method even if you don't have a turbo controller. All you need is some tape to do the job by taping your left stick pointing down. If you just go up and down the stairs repeatedly by doing this, each time you go down it triggers a new wave of spawns, every time you go up it triggers a new wave of spawns. If you want shinies of the Pokemon that only spawn on the east side of this Wild Zone, however, you do need to use these benches here on the eastern middle part of the zone, and this covers the entire rest of the zone that staircase doesn't do. For Wild Zone 4, there is no great cheese method for this one, so the best things that you can do are either fast travel method going to the Wild Zone itself, which reaches the entire left third or so of the zone, and for the rest of the Wild Zone you just have to use the running out of range and then back in method to respawn Pokemon repeatedly. For Wild Zone 5, the Rust Syndicate office door is a loading screen transition that covers the left field of the zone whenever you go in and out of the door, so this can be done AFK if you have a turbo controller. There are also benches in the same area inside of the Wild Zone itself, but benches are slower than door loading screens because of the day and nighttime transitions that makes, and it doesn't really give you that much extra range, so I'd say the door is better than those. For the rest of the Wild Zone entirely, it's pretty much either the fast travel method or running in and out of range method. For Wild Zone 6, there are some benches right outside the zone on this side that you can use with the AFK method with a turbo controller. Otherwise, the best choice is fast travel method, and you can either do that with the Wild Zone itself, which covers the southern side of the zone, or you can use the fast travel method with the cafe to the north, and that covers the north half of the zone. For Wild Zone 7, the bench method in the middle of the zone works to refresh the entire area. It's a really nice and easy one, really simple solution. For Wild Zone 8, bench method works here. There is a bench that you can use. This is about 12 units or so from the actual zone entrance, and this gives you about 38 steps of spawn range within the actual Wild Zone. Bench method can be done while AFK, so that does make it a little bit better. Otherwise, fast travel method onto the zone itself will place you on the eastern entry gate and is faster than benches, of course. For Wild Zone 9, there's no great trick for the majority of this one. Fast travel method is your best bet for anything within 50 units of the entry barrier. Anything further than that and you have to just use pure distance running to respawn them instead. For Wild Zone 10, anything on the right side of the zone is covered by the bench method, with the benches over here, right here where my player character is standing in the upper area. Anything on the eastern side of the zone is covered by the normal fast travel method to the Wild Zone itself because it spawns you on that side. For Wild Zone 11, the only real trick in this spot right here is on the northeast side of the zone. There are benches here that you can do the bench method with. You can use fast travel method, but it covers less of the zone than this does, so this is overall more efficient, even though the bench method is slower per reset. instead. This covers pretty much the whole eastern side of the zone. The west side of the zone requires just running around to despawn and respawn in that sort of standard way. There's not really a more efficient method that I'm aware of for that specific area. For Wild Zone 12, there are benches all around this one, which makes it fairly easy. The best bench is right here, where my player character arrow is right now, as that covers pretty much the entire Wild Zone from one singular spot, and then you can just do the bench method over and over from there. For Wild Zone 13, this one is simple, but not in a good way. Your choices are fast travel method for the east side of the zone within 50 steps of where you load in, anything to the west of that, and you have to do the running around, spawn and despawn method instead. For Wild Zone 14, it's pretty much the same thing. Fast travel works for the northern section of the Wild Zone up to 50 steps of distance. Anything south of that point would require the walking back and forth method instead. For Wild Zone 15, the best choice is the bench method. There are some benches near the south barrier of the zone, and this covers the entire range of the Wild Zone for spawns, so that actually works out quite nicely. For Wild Zone 16, anything within 50 steps of the fast travel point, you can use the fast travel method for. Anything else needs the running back and forth spawn method instead, and that does sadly include the Froakie that spawns on that middle pillar thing, because it's only 54 steps away from the fast travel location. It's just really slightly off of being able to be fast travel spammed, so instead you do have to do the run back and forth method for the Froakie. For Wild Zone 17, this one is relatively simple. There are benches in the southern section that reach the whole south side of the zone, and there are benches in the north section that cover the whole north side of the zone. Nothing covers the whole thing, sadly, but you can shiny hunt for each of these areas individually with the bench method. For Wild Zone 18, this one is a little bit cheeky. The building that borders the southwest side of the zone. You can climb up scaffolding from this spot here outside of the barrier up to that rooftop itself, and where my player is standing here on the corner, there's a bench on a rooftop. This is a pretty wild place for a bench to be, but 50 steps from this location covers 90% of the Wild Zone, so this one is really solid for the bench method covering this whole zone. For Wild Zone 19, this is one of the worst ones for shiny hunt methods. There's no benches, there's no doors or anything like that nearby, so you have to use the fast travel method as the best option for the entire north half of the Wild Zone, and then the running back and forth despawn method for anything that doesn't cover. Then the final Wild Zone, which is Wild Zone 20, there are benches along the northeast side for bench method on anything that's within range of that. There is one set of benches in the middle pathway on the north side, and that is in range of one of the 2 alpha spawns in the middle. So it doesn't get both alphas, but it does get at least one, and if you have a turbo controller and want to do the AFK version of bench method, then you can actually do this to farm some shiny alphas, even if it is a little bit slowly. Then outside of that, this is the one is pretty much just the best place to use the running back and forth method. It is the biggest Wild Zone, is the most open Wild Zone, so you can pretty much get to 80 steps away from almost anything without leaving the zone. There are some things you do have to leave the zone for, like some of the alpha position spawns, but for the most part, you don't even have to do that. Next up then, let's move to a new spot entirely with some inside zones, starting with Lysandre Labs. This unlocks very late in the main story, so slight spoilers ahead, but if you are at this point of the video, you're probably already in the end game. That said, you can return to Lysandre Cafe at any point after going there the first time and enter the labs and the back again. And you can actually shiny hunt most Pokemon in here quite efficiently. The reason is that every teleport pad counts like a door or a staircase. The black screen wipe effect is a loading screen, and so every time you teleport in here, it spawns in a fresh group of Pokemon within the range. An example of this being this Doublade right here. You can clearly tell it is a different Doublade each time I teleport, which means every teleport is a new spawn and a new chance at a shiny. There are various teleporters in here with different Pokemon nearby them, so you can definitely make pretty good use of this. And if you do have a turbo controller and it can just mash A without you even having to touch the controller, then you can find the right teleport pad for the Pokemon you want and set it up for a super efficient shiny hunting AFK method. After that, another sort of indoor underground area is the sewers. You gain access to the sewers a couple of times during story missions, but you can gain access permanently through a side mission after you've completed main mission 19 in the story. From Wild Zone 5, head around the back of the center and east down the street like so, go up the stairs here and into the alleyway that will be on your left, through the goop on the floor that I've already cleared myself, and then you go around the corner into the alleyway and you will find one NPC who has a side mission for you. Talk to him and he will open up the door to the sewers and you will get permanent fast travel access to the location. You can also finish the side mission, which is inside of the sewers, and you will still keep fast travel access to this point. This doesn't only exist while you have the quest, so you can finish it if you want, but you do unlock it as soon as you pick up the quest to begin with. That said, inside of the sewers, there's Noibat, Inkay, Ghastly, Haunter, Scraggy, Klefki, Goomy, Patrat, Litwick, Skrelp, and Dragalge. There's no easy respawn method inside of here like the wild zones, the laboratory has, so you do need to just do the running back and forth despawn and respawn method, but this is an alternative way to shiny hunt any of the Pokemon that are in here, and this is how you get it unlocked permanently. Two more specific things then for fossils, which means looking for Tyrant, Amara, or their evolutions, or Aerodactyl as well, of course. For shinies, the only option is to just mass recover their fossils. The best way to do that would be to buy as many as you can stomach in one go, ideally like 20 or more fossils at a time if you have the money to do that with, then go to the research lab, save in front of the NPC who will identify the fossils before you start going, then once you've saved, start recovering all the fossils, just spam pressing A and making them into fresh Pokemon. If you get a shiny from this, success, move on with your life, that's it. If not, quit out to the home screen, close the game, open the game back up at the save point right before you started recovering fossils, and there will be new fresh Pokemon each time. It will be another chance at a shiny Pokemon, even though they're the same fossils that you bought originally. I do also feel the need to mention for shiny hunting through fossils that this is like the only shiny hunting thing in the game where the shiny charm has no effect. It simply does not increase the odds of finding a shiny fossil Pokemon, so this is the only section of this where the shiny charm won't make it easier once you get to that point of the game. Finally then, let's talk about Side Mission 17. If we're talking about shinies, it's hard not to mention that there is a free one in the game. Side Mission 17 is right here on the edge of Wild Zone 1. Talk to the NPC and they will mention Tales of a Shiny Mareep. Go into the area, climb up to the rooftops using the ladder on the western side, climb up the main tall building of the rooftops, and you will find a shiny Mareep right there waiting to be caught. If you fail to catch by defeating it or something like that, it will respawn when you come back to the area because it is guaranteed to be shiny for the sake of this quest. But once you have caught it the first time, it will be gone. You can't get multiple shiny free Mareep here. However, it is still one free shiny Pokemon. So for anyone who is a fan of Mareep, enjoy your free little treat at the end here. Outside of all of those specific locations, then there are plenty of wild Pokemon spawns around the world. If you find a place that has a Pokemon that you want to shiny farm, you will always be able to use one of these various methods that we've talked about here. Using things like restaurant doors or stuff like that is the highest priority method if it is possible in the range. Then the fast travel method is the second highest priority, as it is slightly faster than the bench method. After that, the bench method is very high priority if you have a turbo controller and want to do AFK method, and there are plenty of benches near pretty much anywhere on the map, honestly, like they are all over the place. Otherwise, if none of the above apply, you're just going to be doing the run back and forth despawn respawn method. And it's worth the reminder that that is pretty much always going to be the fastest choice on the original Nintendo Switch regardless, because the load times are longer for all of the other methods compared to the Switch 2. And that just about does it for today then, everyone. Everything you need to know to maximize your shiny hunting time spent in Pokémon Legends Z-A. All the general information, the general tips, the best methods, and how to best apply those methods to pretty much any Pokemon in the game as long as you know where to find them. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I hope it helps you get some really stylish friends to fight alongside you. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.